Hi, in this video we are going to look at solving quadratics. There are numerous ways of solving quadratics. We can do it from a graph, we can do it by factorising, and the final way is by using a thing called the quadratic formula, which I'm going to show you on the next couple of slides. So the quadratic formula is used probably as a final resort if you cannot factorise. It will work on any quadratic, but we only use it in questions that aren't going to factorise into a pair of brackets. There's a huge clue in a question on when to use it, and it's when it says solve a trinomial to one decimal place or one significant figure or two significant figures. The mention of rounding means that it's not going to give us our nice roots. And what we're actually solving here is we're finding the roots, we're finding where the quadratic cuts the x-axis graphically, and if it doesn't factorise nicely, then it's probably because it's going to be decimals for the roots. So this is where the formula comes in. Now, if you look down at this bit in blue here, this is really important. This is what we are going to be using here. The a value is whatever's in front of the x squared, the b is whatever's in front of the x, and the c is whatever's left at the end. You've probably used this already when you've done the discriminant, if you've already done that. If not, that's something still to come. Please be aware that our signs will be important here as well. So this here is the quadratic formula. At first glance you might think, oh my goodness, this looks horrendous. It's probably one of the messiest formulas you've ever seen at National 5 so far in maths, but it's not as bad as it looks. And in an exam this question is worth 4 marks, and for some people it's a lovely, what we call a bread and butter, guaranteed 4 marks, because it's just substituting in and then working through. And I'm going to show you how I think it's the easiest way to set out the formula to make the least number of mistakes as possible. And then at the end I'll have a wee look at what common mistakes are. So this is also on your formula sheet, so you do not need to memorise it. What I do urge you to do though is to copy it down correctly, because several people will go copy this down and they won't have this line here over the full thing. They'll maybe just have it under the square root, and they'll maybe forget the negative out the front or something like that. So this is our formula, and I'll have that on the slide again. Now, eagle-eye viewers might have spotted this formula before on Peppa Pig. I have a good chuckle every time I see it. This up here is basically Daddy Pig works in an office. We don't know what he does other than he does stuff with numbers. Daddy Pig does the quadratic formula for a living, and they've got a triangle, but here it says the triangle is b squared minus 4ac. So kudos to Daddy Pig for using quadratic formula. Right, moving on. Okay, so here's my first example, and this is how it will appear in an exam. It will say solve a trinomial equal to 0 to one decimal place. That there is your clue that you have to use this formula. So we've copied the formula down already, hopefully from the sheet. I would encourage you to always do this A, B, C, 4AC bit first of all. Just it makes our substitution so much easier, less chance to make mistakes. So A is the first term, the number in front of the x squared is a secret number 1. Your B is the middle term, which is a 6, and your C is the end term, which is a 4. 4AC would then be 4 times 1 times 4, which is 16. So if I go straight to the formula, because I've already got it written out there, negative b means you put in the negative of whatever you've said b is, or the opposite sign. So b is 6, so that becomes negative 6, plus or minus the square root. It says 6 squared. I'm going to go straight to whatever 6 squared is. It says b squared. B is the number 6. Square that, you get 36 in there, so that's a 36. Take away your 4AC, we've already worked out down the bottom, is 16. And then we put that all, a line under everything there, all over 2A. 2A is 2 times 1, which is just 2. Okay, so that's your first mark for just doing the substitution. Then we're going to tidy up this bit under the square root, the discriminant. 36 minus 16 is 20. So this gives us the square root of 20 all over 2. Now, so far, you've got the first mark for substitution, the second mark for tidying up your square root. Then that plus or minus means we split this into 2 sums. So we split it into a sum with an add in the middle. And then you split it into another sum with a takeaway in the middle. That's why it says plus or minus, because we're going to work out the 2 answers. From there, we're going to go to a calculator. And if you're using the calculator on the math mode, now by the math mode I mean that when you type in your fraction button, it comes up like this. If you use that mode, then I would urge you just to go type this in exactly as it looks, okay? If you don't have a Casio calculator that brings the math mode up into a fraction, i.e. you're using an older model, your tip is you must press equals after the top line or put a bracket around the top line. Please remember BODMAS, if I try and type this in as -6 plus root 20 divided by 2, your calculator will do that divide by 2 bit first. So I used to, old school, used to type in -6 plus root 20 equals and then divide my answer by 2. We're not going to work out what root 20 is as a decimal because that will incur a penalty point in your marking because you've prematurely rounded within a question, which we don't do in maths. So on your calculator, if you've got that lovely fraction mode, type it in that it looks exactly like this. If not, please press equals after the top line. Now watch, the question wants one decimal place, so if you don't round correctly, you will lose marks. Now to one decimal place, this gives us negative 0.8. And the other answer is negative 5.2. So that is our two answers. Okay, so that's your first example. And hopefully you've not found that too bad. Let's go have a look at another one where we've got more chance of getting caught out and making mistakes based on negatives all over the place. So example 2, this time we've got 2 negatives in the trinomial. But as long as we are very careful, it shouldn't be an issue. So A is the first term in front of the x squared, which is a secret number 1. B is your middle term. Now notice this time it's -6. And C is your end term, which is -3. 4AC will be 4 times 1 times -3, which gives us -12. Now if we go to our formula, so our formula is x equals negative b. Now remember this time b was -6, so -6 becomes +6. So normal 6 plus or minus the square root. B squared is -6 squared, and remember that -6 squared turns into a positive. So I'm going to go straight to 36. Basically, you should know by now any number squared is positive. So you've got 36 there, take away, and then 4AC was -12. Now this is why I like to go work out my 4AC first of all, because it makes this double negative 10 times more obvious when it comes to the substitution. And then it's everything all over 2A, so 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so from there, we tidy up that square root, so you've got plus and minus. 36 minus -12 becomes a +12, which gives you 48, all over 2. I've made that slightly too big there. So all over 2, and then we split it into the two sums. So you've got 6 plus your root 48, and 6 minus your root 48. And then go to your calculator again, if you've got that nice modern one with the fraction modes. Type it in as it appears. If you're using an older calculator, press equals after your top line. First answer gives you 6.5. Second answer gives you -0.5. Now don't be put off if you do that the other way round and get the answers the opposite way round. It's okay. I, out of habit, always do the plus sum first and then the takeaway sum. And if you've already typed that into your calculator, you don't have to type it in again. You can go back and edit and change the plus to a minus. So that's my 2 answers there for that one. One more to show you. So the difference in this one here is you'll notice there's a 2 in front of the x squared. So there's a term for the a this time. So a is the first term, which is a 2. B is the middle one, which is +3. And C is the end one, which is -4. 4 times 2 times -4 gives you your 4AC value, which is -32. So again, you've got a wee negative in there, so watch out. Substituting straight in then, so you've got x equals, b this time is 3, so we've got the negative of that, so -3 plus or minus. B squared is 3 squared, which is 9. Take away, your 4AC was a -32, so we've got a double negative. All over 2 times a, so all over 2 times 2 this time, and I'm going to just write that in. So all over 2 times 2. Let's tidy this up. So you've got -3 plus or minus That becomes 9 plus 32, which is 41. And that is all over 4. Okay, so some people get thrown sometimes when there's a number in front of the A, and make a mistake of just keeping it as always over 2, so just watch out. From there, we can now split it up into our two sums. In fact, before I go any further, I just want to come back to this little bit up here, the discriminant here. Had you not noticed the double negative and just done 9 take away 32, you would have got a negative answer. And if you're trying to do a square root of a negative answer, it will come up error. If that ever happens to you, please do not just ignore the negative and proceed. For example, this one would give us negative 23. Don't turn that into positive 23 and carry on, because you'll lose marks, okay? If you get a negative here, it means that something has gone wrong and you need to go check your numbers again, okay? So, and also, if you've already been taught discriminant, the reason that's coming out with a negative means that there's no roots at all. You can't proceed with that, so you shouldn't proceed. So just watch out for that bit up there. Right, so back to my actual work, and I'm going to split it into two sums now. So minus 3 plus the root 41 and minus 3 minus the root 41. And then if you work both of them out, now I didn't notice this one actually says significant figures this time. So to two significant figures, the first one comes out as 0.85. Because remember, zeros at the front of decimals don't count. And then the second one comes out as negative 2.4. And that's your two answers there. Okay, so I've shown you 3 different examples. I've shown you the different things that can happen with a different A term, having a double negative in it, and things like that. What I'm going to do is on my next slide, this is quite often, if I was teaching you in class, this would be your starter if you came in the next day. And this is optional, you don't need to do this. But you could try pausing the video just now and try and look for my mistakes. One thing we really struggle to teach you in maths is how to check your answers. But every teacher drums on about, if you've got time left at the exam, go check your answers. But it's a skill you need to be taught as well. It doesn't come naturally. So sometimes it works out well to take on my role as a teacher and go find my mistakes. So if you've got time, if you want to, pause the video, look through my working and see if you can find where my mistakes are. And on the next slide, I will show you where they are, and I have actually found the correct answers and corrected them. There's also questions further on in the video if you want to do some practice on your own, as an alternative resource to a textbook. So in the red pen here, you'll see my mistakes. On the first one, my mistake was my A value was 7. And I took the A value here to be 2, because remember what I said to you, quite often it's always a 2. So that was a mistake there. And it should have been all over 14. So you'll see I've changed the 2 to a 14 in red pen, and that made the correct answer 0.8 and negative 0.9. On the second one, my mistake was the 4AC bit. I didn't do the double negative. I just went straight in for 49, take away 16. So I've turned that into a plus, so that made my discriminant or my square root to be 65, and my answers became the ones down the bottom in red there. Here are some straightforward examples. I want them all to 2 decimal places this time, so just watch out. It is normally 1 decimal place. It's up to you if you want to do 1 decimal place or 2, but the answers are there. Give them a try if you want. Best of luck. Thank you very much for watching this video.